Do you ever want to try something new, or you want to really step outside of your comfort zone and you're like, ooh, I wonder what everybody's going to think. Like, are they going to be comfortable with that? Well, why are you worried about if they're comfortable for it? Because here's the deal. Remember this. You are only guaranteed to live 100% of your life with you. Your job is not to make other people comfortable with what you want to do. And we get caught up in that, right? And then you feel stuck and you're like, oh my God, why do I feel stuck? I want to try this, but I don't know. Like, is that going to be weird? And so that's what this week's episode is, right? So welcome to the Positivity Experience, episode 34. Stop trying to make everybody comfortable with who you are. Check it out. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Experience. I am your girl Lori, and welcome to hopefully what will be soon here, at least on the West Coast. I'm not even on the West Coast. Good Lord. Soon to be on the East Coast. This hot heat humidity, I'm super duper over it. You guys know I'm the fall girl. I already bought like a bunch of little, like, very inexpensive little trinkets from Walmart the other day, like different pumpkins, and your girl is ready for 65, maybe 70 degree day, 50 degree nights. Like, I'm so ready for that. So, I mean, that's me, right? And if you're not comfortable with it, then that's going to be well, and obviously that's a little bit of an exaggeration because you don't have to really be comfortable with somebody else's decisions, but it does go into today's topic, right? And as you heard in the little trailer before we started, is that, very often you're walking through life and you're like, oh my God, I would love to try blah, blah, blah. Or I am this way, blah, 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 blah. Like, you guys know, if you don't know, now you know, I am very much a hippie type girl. Like a hippie who listens to hip hop, who hugs trees, who is often naked under the full moon, who walks to the beat of my own drum, and it is what it is. And if people aren't comfortable with it, they're just not comfortable with it. And that's okay, because then they're probably not my people. And that's all right, because I'm not their people, right? And so that's what today is going to be talking to you about it. I'm going to be talking to you about it today, because very often you're in this stuck zone, right? Like, this goes into what we were talking about a couple episodes back on limited beliefs, right? So think about this. When you are born, you've heard me say this before, when you're born, very often you're given some name. Well, you are given some name. You don't even get to pick. Given a name. Sometimes you're given a religious affiliation, a political affiliation. And if you come from, let's say, a line of people who have a farm, or they're lawyers, so now you've already got this sort of expectation that this is what you're going to be in life, and this is what your path is. We've level set this path out there for you. Okay. What if none of those things that you're comfortable with? I mean, obviously your name, you can change it. It's not that deep, but yeah. And same thing with your political and religious affiliation, but it becomes problematic if you're making that change, you feel as though, oh my God, these people are going to hate the fact that this is what's happening. Okay. And this is where that trauma piece comes into play. Right? And you guys know that when you're dealing with trauma, and every human being has had some form of trauma. Trauma is an emotional response to an unwanted situation. So we've all had it on some level. And it's not a competition. Like, oh, I had more trauma. I had more. A trauma is trauma. Okay. Now, here's the deal with that. Let's say you were raised in a certain political affiliation, and you grow up and you're like, oh, I don't know. This isn't really what I align with. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to vote differently, or I'm going to do whatever differently. And I don't know, you're around the dinner table and somebody says, hey, elections came up, and hey, didn't you vote for blah, blah, blah? And you're like, actually, I didn't. And they're like, what do you mean you didn't? I didn't. I mean, first of all, this shouldn't even be a topic of conversation where it becomes deep, but let's pretend that this is where we are, because we're at a family gathering and it's just like open communication. And you're like, oh my God. And now they're like, what is wrong with you? You're stupid. You're okay. First of all, you're not, because you are your own individual person. So let's say you are the only person in your family that voted for Tom Smith. Okay. And everybody else voted for Deborah Thompson. Okay. And you're like, okay, but I don't really align with Deborah Thompson. I align with Tom Smith. And they're like, well, that's wrong. It's not wrong. It isn't wrong for you. right? And honestly, look at everything that we are in the world. It doesn't matter where you're listening to this podcast. By the way, hello, my lovely people across the pond and down in Australia, down under. You guys are getting ready to come into your spring. And, it's kind of one of those situations where it doesn't matter where you are, you're going to have a viewpoint. You're going to have a viewpoint on anything that's going on in the world right now, from COVID to war to just about anything else. And you are 100% allowed your thoughts. Okay. It doesn't matter what I believe in, right? But it matters what you believe in, right? And so now, of course, that's a little extreme. However, this is what we're facing right now. A lot of us here in the States, we're going back to school now. And I'm assuming everywhere is going back to school. And, all of these things are happening and certain people are angry with certain things. And so there's a lot of chaos in the world right now. And that's where, that's that whole acceptance piece on, accepting things in which you cannot control. But that's for a different podcast. And, this is where it comes into play that, you don't have to try to throw your beliefs out the window because you want other people to be comfortable. Who cares if they're comfortable? They're not living your life. And so it doesn't matter. Seriously, I will walk up to a tree in the middle of a park with 150,000 people around, and I will hug the shit out of that tree, and I am going to all but make out with the tree. I do not care if someone's with me and they're like, oh my God, that's super embarrassing. I'm not trying to make you comfortable. I hug trees because that's where I dump a lot of my energy. Feels great to me. You don't have to align with it. I don't have to make you comfortable with it. Now, obviously, if it makes you uncomfortable, then you're probably not going to come with me, right? That's that boundary thing, right? And it's not about being all about you, but it is about being you, right? So it's not to be confused with the world must kowtow to. No. They don't have to. The world doesn't have to rock with you. Your mom and dad don't have to agree with you. Your partner doesn't have to align with you. No. This is for you to be okay with. And you get caught up when you're trying to make all these people around you comfortable. Oh, I don't want them to be uncomfortable around me. Okay, so you would rather always put whatever you want on the back burner because other people aren't comfortable. But then you're walking through your life trying to please everybody else. And then you're going to feel stuck. You're going to feel lonely. You're going to feel confused. You're going to feel angry, right? Because now you're like, damn it. I do all these things for all these people. And, I make sure I put myself out there and I give 5,000%. Remember though, you always do things without the expectation back, right? Because everybody is different. And this goes into that comfort zone. Now, flip side of that is you don't have to be comfortable with everybody else's decisions either, right? So let's say your friend is in love with fairies. I just say that because I love fairies. And, every time you guys go out to the Ren Fest, or maybe not there because you expect that, I don't know, somewhere, they wear their cute little ears. Cute little fairy ears or elf ears. And you're like, why are you doing that? Because they want to. Why are we overanalyzing it? Now, if you're uncomfortable, then you just don't have to rock with them. But this is where that compromise comes into play, is understanding that people don't have to be comfortable with you. And you don't have to be comfortable. Now, when I say not comfortable, for me, there's a lot of deal breakers, from homophobia to racism. Those are massive deal breakers for me. Now, I'm not gonna just sit there and be like, oh my God. I'm just not gonna do that. I'm gonna do what I can do when I can do it and then release what I can't control. But I'm also not gonna rock with somebody. That's a whole different line for me personally. That's past being uncomfortable. That's just something that seriously does not align with me. And so understanding that being you is going to come with you being comfortable with you. You're trying to walk around and make sure all these other human beings are comfortable with your decisions and your choices. And then when they're not comfortable, then you're second guessing it because you haven't done the work to heal the trauma, to understand that it's not up to them to walk in your shoes. If somebody is not in your shoes, they shouldn't be tying your damn laces, right? And that's where it is. And very often you are putting yourself on hold. Well, number one, you have to ask yourself, like we did last week. If you didn't hear last week's podcast, there's a little homework in there about who are you, right? That you have to do the legwork on. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is, are you comfortable? I mean, that's really the big question. Because outside of being a fawn response, which is your people pleasing, outside of that entire thing, it's, are you comfortable? Because very often when you're walking around and you're looking for external validation, again, this is a trauma response. So therapy and mindful coaching is going to be your key, just one of the many keys. And understanding that very often you're going, okay, well, I don't know if I want to do that because I'm going to be uncomfortable. And then you ask yourself why. So let's say you wanted to go hug a tree, like me. You were going to come with me. We're going to go hug some trees. And you're like, oh my God, I've always wanted to hug trees. I don't know, fill in the blank. And we get out and you see there's a bunch of people. And I go, okay, I'm going to go over here and hug trees. So why don't you go over there and hug your set of trees? And you're like, okay. And you start going, I don't know. It feels weird. It feels strange because now you think everybody at the park is looking at you. A, who gives a damn if they are, but now you're overthinking it. And very often, a lot of what you fear doing is how you view something. So let's say you didn't know me. You're driving down the street, drive. Yes, that's how it works. And you glance over and you see me. You'll know it's me. And I'm some lady over here in a bikini in the middle of winter. I don't know why I said bikini, but just pretend. And I'm hugging a tree. You might be like, well, that person's crazy. I don't care what you think. But because you think that person is crazy, you don't want to do it because you don't want to be considered crazy. But what's crazy, right? I'll tell you what crazy is. What crazy is trying to be perfect. And what crazy is being a relative. I'm not saying that you're literally crazy. I'm saying the idea of that is not achievable. Okay? Because here's the reality. You are 100% allowed your perception. Your perception is your reality. You're allowed your opinion. That's the beautiful thing about the world we live in. You can have one. And I can have a different one. And guess what? We can either rock together, appreciate and respect each other, or not. But regardless, it's not going to change me. Right? Never once have I driven down the street during an election year and saw somebody's sign outside and thought, oh my gosh, you know what? I'm going to change my mind. Like at no point has that ever happened. Or if somebody said, hey, I think you should blah, 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 I will hear you. We will listen. But if I don't align with it or you don't align with it, you shouldn't rock with it. It's just what it is. And so that's it. And is it that black and white? It's gray. There's the gray area. But when it comes to being comfortable, that's black and white. Because the only person who needs to be comfortable with your decisions of yourself, right? I mean, obviously you can't just be like, look what I did. Went and bought me a new Bentley because I was comfortable and I don't care. Look, that's irresponsible. That's not what I mean by comfortable. I mean, when I say being comfortable with who you are for yourself and not others is what if you want to try a new job? Or what if you want to change your political or religious affiliation? Are you going to walk around and say, okay, well, I'm just going to pretend like I still believe in this, or I'm going to stay stuck in this dead-end job that I don't like because everybody's comfortable with it except for me. And if I get out of this blah, 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 then all these people are going to start yelling and screaming at me and they're not going to be comfortable. Okay, so then you get to decide at that point. Do you want to be comfortable or do you want to make everybody else comfortable and you be uncomfortable? And very often the other side of that is, well, I mean, it's not terrible. Like, I mean, I could do it. Like we're good. Like I could still live this way. I've lived this way for a long time. Okay. But can you do it without being angry? Can you do it and be comfortable? Can you do it and be comfortable? Because remember, again, like I said in the beginning, you are the only person who's going to live 100% of your life with you. People are not going to like change. If you grow up a certain way and you change, you go off grid, like you're going to go live up in the mountains somewhere. And your people are like, are you crazy? Like, oh, you graduated Harvard. You're supposed to be a lawyer. You're going to go live off grid? What's wrong with you? Well, it's not for them to decide. And so, and I know I'm using like extreme examples, but sometimes they're subtle. But we are in a world right now where everybody is freaking out. Everybody's angry with this, and everybody's walking around miserable. And listen, everybody is allowed their feelings in their comfort zone. I personally choose not to accept anybody else's energy that does not serve me. This is not their viewpoint. I said their energy. So if somebody's coming in hot and they're angry and they're trying to, no, we're good. I'm not going to be rude. I'm not going to lose sleep about it. Literally, I'm just going to distance myself and be like, hey, you know what? I'm really happy that you have that opinion for yourself, but for me, it doesn't work. Well, it should. Well, that's your opinion. And then I'm going to either hang up the phone or walk away. Like I'm not going to sit there and breathe life into it, because you don't have to be comfortable with my choice being different than yours, or my selection of whatever beverage I'm going to have. Like it doesn't matter, right? This scenario can go across the board with the things that are happening in the world today, with your relationships, with your job, with your family, with your friends, with your children. This pertains to everything. But remember, just like boundaries, if you are going to establish boundaries, you must respect other people's boundaries. You don't have to like them. You don't have to be comfortable with them. Not their job to make you comfortable. Vice versa. It's the same thing with this whole comfortability, which I guess they kind of go hand in hand, is that understanding that while you don't have to be comfortable with it, that's where the boundaries come into play. Because last week we worked on this. If you're driving, you guys know I do this. If you're driving, we're at like 16 minutes and almost 10 seconds, because I want to redo a little bit of the homework from last week. And the homework for last week was to make a list of your negotiables and your non-negotiables. Non-negotiables and negotiables. Like you shouldn't have all non-negotiables and you shouldn't have all negotiables. Right? Like, and sit with it and be very clear, because this is your boundaries. And like I said to you guys last week, my boundaries, like this is like a total deal breaker. You could be gorgeous. You could be sweet. You could be kind. You could be wealthy. If you tell me you don't like animals in the house, we are not going to be together. That is a deal breaker for me. It might not be for you. You might be like, oh, it's okay. But it is for me, and it's right for me. And so when you're in that, that's why you have to know what your deal breakers are. These aren't for other people to be comfortable with. So let's say my sister was like, Lori, this is like the perfect guy for you almost. Like, well, no, he isn't, because the perfect guy would, have all of these things and love animals for me. And let's say she was like, well, but that's dumb. Like, you could deal without the animals in the house. No, first of all, I would tell her to stay in her lane, like stop pushing your agenda on me. And second of all, I know what works for me. So just because you may look at it and be like, well, that's stupid. Like literally the person has the perfect package. They just don't want to have cats in the house. Well, you know what? My cats are extremely important to me. My animals are extremely important to me. And that's okay. And you don't have to be comfortable with it. Right? And vice versa the other way around. Let's say you said to me, and I like to not have shoes on my carpet, right? I don't mind the hardwood. But if you walked in and if I walked in your house and you were like, hey, you can wear shoes in my house, I would ask, can I take my shoes off? And you'd be like, you can, you don't have to. Okay, but this makes me comfortable. Right? I know that sounds silly, because I was trying to give you two extremes. Like one really like not a big deal, somewhere in the middle, and then somewhere super extreme. Because remember, there's 50 shades of gray. You got to pick a few of them and rock with it. And understanding that when you are seeking other people's validation for you to be comfortable is exactly what you're doing. So first and foremost, you have to be comfortable with your decisions. You have to be comfortable with if you change your mind. You have to be comfortable with that. Now, what else do you have to be comfortable with? You have to be comfortable with other people being uncomfortable. Because everybody doesn't have to see it from your perspective. Clearly, a very big, hard one in the world we live in today. People don't have to see it your way. For us, for me, and for my family, my 14-year-old, my 25-year-old, my husband, and myself, we are vaccinated. We like being vaccinated. We will get the booster. This works for us. If you don't want to have the vaccine, don't get the vaccine. I'm not going to say, oh my God, you're wrong. Just don't get it then. Now, if you were like, hey, I'm coming to visit you and you weren't vaccinated, you're not coming to visit me. And I'm not coming to visit you. Or you know what? We can meet outside. We can wear masks outside, but I'm not really coming. And that's okay. But I'm not going to yell at you. Right? And so, but that's me. That's me. And I'm not wrong for my decisions for me and my family. And so understanding that I was comfortable with this. Me. And, I mean, it doesn't hurt that I also work with a lot of epidemiologists and I had COVID and it was god awful and it was awful. And you guys know I had a fever for 11 days. I didn't feel like a human. My head felt like it was going to explode. It was not a, got COVID. No, I was miserable and it was scary as hell. And I don't want to have it on that severity anymore. So for me, I will stay vaccinated and I will wear my mask. And you don't have to around me because you don't have to be around me, and vice versa. And so, but I use that because I'm not going to get angry with you one way or another. You can do you, but I know what I will allow around me because that's comfortable for me. Right. And so listen, I understand not everybody in the world's doing that. I see the news, but I also don't care about what other people are doing on that level. My daughter's 14. She will happily wear her mask while she's vaccinated in school. It is what it is. I am not bitching. I'm not complaining about it. If you are and you're comfortable with it, then be comfortable with it. But I'm not going to buck you. You know what I mean? I'm not going to argue with you about it or, do you? I'm good with what I do. And so that's the secondary part of it is you being comfortable with somebody else's discomfort and them being comfortable, them being uncomfortable with your comfort. And that's okay. Because it doesn't matter what anybody says to me. They could be like, well, you know why I don't think okay, you don't have to plead your case. That's okay. Cool. You don't have to plead your case. I'm not going to plead mine. I know what works for me and you think you know what works for you. I mean, you do know what works for you. I think I know what works for me. And we go from there. But that goes on different levels outside of just vaccines and masks and politics. Okay. That also goes in relationships. That also goes in life. What do you want to do? Oh, I don't think that you should do that. That's really uncomfortable. But why are you worried about making somebody else comfortable? And then ask yourself this question. Okay. This is the acceptance piece of it. Now this is some deep stuff here. Okay. So and it's deep if you allow it to be deep. If not, you'll just listen to it and be like, it's whatever. If you've already even listened to me through the vaccine conversation, because if you disagree with it, you're probably like, F it, whatever. And that's fine too. Okay. I mean, seriously, I'm not pushing it. I'm just saying what worked for me. And so, for me, and for you, what you have to understand is the acceptance piece of things being out of your control is you not being comfortable in the discomfort, because you will be uncomfortable. I am uncomfortable around a lot of situations and a lot of people, but I'm comfortable in the discomfort, because if I'm up till 3:00 in the morning trying to change the agenda, trying to change the overall outcome, I'm the one that's losing sleep, not you. So that's why, for me, and it's funny, it sounds silly, but I've worked with people on both aisles or all three aisles in the middle as well, and of the politics type thing on how to get them away from being so invested in the news. Because, obviously if you watch one thing, it's going to lean one way, one thing leads another way. But at the end of the day, right, it's great to be educated, but there is such a thing as being over invested. So while you're spending all of that energy, right? Be aware, of course. But while you're spending all that energy, you are wasting the energy that it takes to work on you. Everybody is worried about everybody else. Focus on you. And this is where it comes in, again, not just in politics and stuff, but in your life. Okay, so if you want to be a stripper, then go be the best stripper you could ever be. Okay, why? Why are you trying to make other people comfortable? Now, and again, there are going to be those hard lines for you, and there should be. I'm not going to rock with anybody who fills in the blank, right? Now, some of that will be your non-negotiables. And this is why you want to go back on that and do your non-negotiables, right? The one thing that I love about everybody I work with is I work with everybody in all walks of life, all colors and credences, all genders, all political affiliations, all religious affiliations. Yes, all Muslim, Catholicism, Scientology, Judaism? Yes, I do. Christian? Okay. So because I don't judge, you are you. It doesn't matter if I like it or don't like it because I'm not invested in it. I'm not you. Now, if you ask me what I believe, I will tell you, but I'm not trying to urge you. And so, but that comes with your self-love, and that comes with acceptance that what works for you may not work for everybody else. And, you know, it is unfortunate because sometimes families will dismantle, but it's what it is. Because you are you. The struggle is when you try to make sure that you're okay for everybody else. And so that's kind of where I want you to be this week, right? Is I want you to really dig deep. Again, doing your negotiables and non-negotiables, really sitting with it, really asking yourself, what are you aligned with and what are you not? And what are you comfortable about in your life? You may be like, well, I'm comfortable where I am. Great. Are you growing? Because remember, nothing grows in the comfort zone. If you are comfortable and you feel like, well, this is just status quo and I'm good, then rock it. But if you feel stuck and you're like, well, why am I not growing? Because you won't get out of the comfort zone. And to get out of the comfort zone means not only are you going to be uncomfortable, but very often the people around you are going to be uncomfortable. They're not going to get it. They're not going to, but you know what? Sometimes they will. And sometimes you'll meet new people. Like how many times have you guys said to me, and I've seen it on all my platforms and in my emails and with my clients, is, oh my God, why do I keep attracting the same people? Well, because that's the definition of insanity, right? You keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Again, that's the actual definition of insanity. And understanding that you're trying to be the fixer, you're trying to do all of these things, you're trying to make sure that all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, and everything is working and everything is on point. No. So when you start getting comfortable with the discomfort of the growth and getting comfortable with who you are, very often you're going to vibrate higher over a period of time. And as you vibrate higher, you're going to attract different vibrations of people, which means that normal sort of group of people may change. And yes, you may distance yourself from people who you thought were your ride or dies, and maybe they're not. You can mourn that because you're allowed to. But don't get too caught up in, I don't understand why they fill in the blank. Because you're wasting that energy. You're expending energy on other people who are there to sort of align with you, who can help you grow. In any healthy relationship, male, female, friendship, it doesn't matter. A healthy relationship is the ability to allow each person to grow individually to where when you come back together, again, doesn't matter. This isn't just for love relationships, that when you come back together, even if you disagree on something other than it being like an absolute deal breaker, even if you disagree on something, that you can be okay with the disagreement. You can say, it's okay that I disagree with this. And allow yourself to be in that space. So, and listen, that's a lot of work. Like, I don't think you're going to do it in a 30-minute podcast. You're not going to be like, oh my God, I got it. Like, I'm great. Of course not. But remember, it's daily practice. You don't get to just practice this when you're pissed off or when you feel great. No, this is a daily part of your routine. Is sitting with yourself, is discomfort. Allowing yourself the meditation, allow yourself the double journaling, allow yourself 50 different podcasts, allow yourself, if you take medicine, to continuously take your medicine on time, allow yourself to do your meditation, allow yourself to constantly reevaluate, but you got to do it daily. Daily, not when it's convenient. And also remember, it's not always about grow, 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 grow. Sometimes you got to pause. Because that's how you integrate the growth. You don't keep growing, watering, because then you overwater your flowers. And now you've drowned it. Now you're not really getting the nutrients. Now it's over inundated and you're not even getting it in the first place. Balance. With a plant, you need sometimes wind, right? But with trees, you need wind. So let's say wind, sun, water, air. Okay, if you have too much of one of those things, it's not going to grow. So when you're growing, you must pause. You must pause. You must sit in the discomfort. Okay? So going into this week, I want you to get really okay with you being comfortable with you. Because you worrying about everybody else's comfort is never going to serve your best and highest good. Ever, not in a million years. So the biggest question that I'm going to leave you with, and one to ask yourself, right? Is ask yourself, is all of this comfortability that I'm looking for in other people because I don't want to look for it in myself? Right? And then once you get clear with that question, then ask yourself, what does it mean to really be comfortable with me?
Check it out.